The following edition of Connecticut Valley Views is made possible by Windsor Federal Savings, with offices in Windsor, Granby, and Bloomfield. Neighbors helping neighbors since 1936. I'm Susan Regan, your host for Connecticut Valley Views. And today our show's topic is the Connecticut Forum in Hartford, Connecticut. And our guests are Doris and Richard Sugarman. They are the founders of this award-winning and venerable nonprofit organization. It's a pleasure to be here with you folks.
Thank you. It's great to have you. It's great to be with you.
I'm going to make a statement that I have taken straight off your website that I thought was very key and I think that our viewers should know about. It says your mission has been to encourage the free and active exchange of ideas in forums that inform, challenge, entertain, inspire, and build bridges among all people and organizations in our community. Now, you established this forum in 1992, is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
And you work around this particular objective all the time. Was there somewhere that something happened that provided a catalyst for you to start this forum? Was it a long building thing, or was there one particular thing that set it off and said we need to do this?
It's a good question, and the answer is no. There wasn't one particular catalyst, one thing that happened that said we have to do this that led us to that. It was really a combination of things. I mean, I'll briefly put that together for you. I mean, the one was we had moved here in 1989 to a new community, a new home, and we wanted to figure out ways to be part of that new community. So that was a piece of it. I think, two, we felt some frustration that there were a lot of issues and ideas and things going on in the world and all around us that we just didn't get enough opportunity to hear about and think about and really dig into. You know, we would get headlines, we would get little pieces, little sound bites, but we didn't get the full picture, and it just seemed to be limited in terms of the number of things and the depth of conversation.
And the fracturing, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So that was part of it. I think, three, we felt like a lot of the things that were delivered in sort of public events and public affairs and so on were very scripted and very sanitized and very predictable and kind of spin, if you will. And we felt others were hungry for something more authentic and more real and more spontaneous and unpredictable, that we can sort it out. We have good minds, all of us. We can sort it out. I think the last piece of it was that, and certainly what we learned coming to Connecticut, that it's a fractured state in many ways. You know, the 160-odd towns and so on tends to fracture the community, and it was our sense...
the economy is kind of weighted towards the south.
Absolutely.
And then it goes from there in various directions.
Absolutely, so fractured in many ways. And that people, we felt, we were and others were hungry for a shared experience, of a sense of community and a sense of connection and a sense of, you know, we all have this in common, regardless of whether we live in this town or this part of the state or that part of the state. So those things led us to, you know, what could we do? Is there something here we can be part of that already exists? And if not, what can we do that could create that? You have to understand, Doris and I both had full-time jobs. We did this entirely as volunteers. We gathered other volunteers together. So, and we didn't have any experience at this. We had never done anything like this. So this was new to everybody involved, including us. But those were the things that sort of motivated us to do this. And
did it start out as a panel to begin with? Was that the format that you started with?
Yeah, it was.
Because that's what you've mainly maintained.
Yeah, it was always the idea of having a panel of people that represented different points of view and different perspective, different experiences, to come together and talk openly and freely and in an unscripted way. I mean, that was...
So they don't know their questions. The panelists don't know the questions before.
Panelists don't know anything in advance. When they walk out on stage, you know, it's going to be a surprise to them. It's going to be a surprise to everybody in the audience in terms of how things are going to unfold.
So there's a theme to the evening, but they don't know
Right.
what questions will
Right.
be involved within that theme.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, you have this forum 4 times a year. How are the panelists chosen? And does it come, is it between the two of you or members of your organization? Or is it because people out in the community have requested it? I'm highly impressed with just some of the people we met. You've had Bucky Dent, Ellie Weasel, Elizabeth Edwards, actually, Anita Hill, Bill Moyers, Newt Gingrich, Gloria Steinem, certainly, and more than 250 others. I think it's 300 you told
Over
us
300
past
people at this point.
few years.
There's just tremendous amount of input from our audience. We encourage people to give us ideas, and they generously do so. So every year, throughout the year, we get ideas. We get either panelists who the audience wants to see or topics that they feel are important and should be presented in a forum-like forum. And we have groups here in the office, focus groups, who come in and brainstorm and talk about lots of things. And through that, Richard is key in the programming. There are a few of us in the office who play a role, but it really funnels through Richard, and probably the best ideas, probably 12 of them, appear on a ballot. And that ballot is shared with our audience, with our sponsoring organizations, as many people as we can, and we get tremendous feedback. And people select their top 4. And from that, you know, we, Richard and others, start putting the season together.
Formulating it together.
So it's important to note that yeah, it's all of that input from all those different sources, like Doris described, and that sort of funnels down at some point, and it has to become a 4-event season. And the 4-event season needs to have variety and range. So it needs to go from current issues, controversial, difficult things, pure entertainment, lighthearted things, inspirational things, maybe things that are panelist personality driven. So the season has to really have that range and variety. And at some point you have to apply some judgment as to, well, that looks like a good season.
Yeah.
People will like
You
that.
have to be on
Let's
top
go
of it,
with
but
it.
ahead of the curve a little bit.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you just don't capture people's attention.
Susan, it can't be, and this is often what happens in terms of the input. Frequently the input is about things that are current events today, things that are in the front of the news today. We're doing forums 6 and 8 and 12 months down the road.
Sure.
So just for that reason, we have to think. But we're trying to think and really asking people to share with us, you know, not just what is important to you today, but what's on your mind that might be important in the future, down the road. So we're always trying to anticipate and always have to plan well in advance. You mentioned Bucky Dent, Yankees,
Yes.
Red Sox. So we planned the Yankees-Red Sox Forum, Yankees versus Red Sox Forum with Bucky Dent, Carlton Fisk, and others. We planned that 6 months before the Red Sox broke the curse
Oh my
and won the
Lord.
World Series.
Wow. So you really kind of lucked out
Okay?
on that one.
And I'll give you another one. So we had an evening planned, Nobel evening, with Nobel Peace Prize winners. 3 Nobel Peace Prize winners
Right.
on stage together. Oscar Arias, Elie Wiesel, Jody Williams, on stage together. We planned that 9 months before, March 20th. The Iraq War started on March 19th. So the first day after the Iraq War, we had 3 Nobel Peace Prize winners on stage
Incredible
together
timing.
talking about
Incredible
war and
timing.
peace. So thinking ahead and trying to anticipate, and sometimes amazing things happen.
Your panelists generally all happy dealing with each other? Ever had any problems with regard to someone not wanting to be on a certain panel? Or are they all
look
kind of
behind,
mesh?
look right behind
Yeah.
us.
Oh, you've got an array of people
I
here
mean,
that are
there's
fascinating.
probably, I think the most,
Right there.
right there, that was the most, they did not like one another.
Ah, okay.
Al Franken and Ann
Okay.
Coulter, they did not.
The reason I ask the question is because you like to hear some reality about the fact, and these people, let's face it, people who are newsmakers in whatever career they're in, are reasonably opinionated, usually very experienced in
Yeah.
their area,
Yeah.
and therefore there are egos involved. So I ask the question only out of the reality of you are dealing with some thoroughbreds here.
Yes.
And in doing so, you need to kind of manage that panel.
You know, I would say that generally the panelists have been delighted to be with one another.
Probably
And they're-
invigorated by
and
each other.
And invigorated, because this is not what they normally do. You know, it's not their normal go out and do a scripted set of remarks and
Sure.
or, you know, the typical panel discussion, because it's all spontaneous and unscripted. You know, I would think the thing that there is this, that most of them are used to being, as you say, sort of the star of the show, the
Right.
keynote.
Right.
So it takes a few minutes
To
typically
step
for them
back
to
and-
say, I don't have to be the keynote here. I'm sharing this, and this is kind of fun. You know, I can learn and listen and bounce things off of each other. So there's a little bit of transition there. But we haven't had, except for Ann and Al, you know, where really it was very contentious. We haven't had too much.
But that makes for a little excitement.
Yeah.
Let's face
Yeah.
it. I mean, if everything is just, you know, smooth and like glass, then it's not, you know, eclectic.
Right.
We need a little bit of that.
We had a forum a number of years ago with Ralph Nader and Dan Quayle and others. And when Ralph Nader came out, he said to Dan Quayle, I want you to know that I've read everything that you've written, and I'm prepared to ask you about it. Now, he didn't tell him that in advance,
Yeah, sure.
but he let him know that he
Sure.
was ready.
Sure.
Okay? So we've had lots of fireworks on stage, no question about it.
Well, having said that, it's normally a panel, and I believe you told me there are only two people, Bill Cosby, and just recently, your most recent one, President Bill Clinton,
Yeah.
who was on, who basically gave a speech.
We're
or a talk.
individuals, yeah.
We're individuals. Now, he has apparently been on your wish list for a long time, is that right?
He has been,
So-
and you know that we just celebrated our 20th anniversary,
So that made
and
sense.
he has been in 20 years by far the most requested panelist. You know those ballots we talked about. People write in who they want to see, and Bill Clinton has, and so we thought it was very fitting, in celebration of our 20 years, to do this fifth event and have the president.
And he
come.
was extremely well received.
was
There's
wonderful.
no question about that.
Overwhelming response.
Yeah.
Overwhelming response. And so, you know, we started the forum in 1992, just before his first presidential election.
Right.
In October 1992, we did a forum called Changing Political Landscape. So even then, when we first started saying to people, who would you like to see? We'd like to see Bill Clinton. And here it was 2012, and they're still saying that
Still
same.
asking for
That
it.
forum was what, 4 weeks before the election?
Yeah.
And we had Leslie Stahl was moderating, Ron Brown, Bob Beckel, Pat Buchanan, William Proxmire, Ann Lewis, and I remember Leslie Stahl, this was our first forum ever.
Sure.
She stood back there and she goes, how did you get all these people 4 weeks before the election?
Including
And this
Ron
was-
Brown, who was the
Yeah.
chairman of the Democratic Committee.
This
Right.
was our first forum and it was really,
Right.
you know, calling
Well, you have to
people
sell
in.
yourself. You have to sell yourself, and you have to sell your objectives, and you have to sell what it is you're trying to do. And I think that's you're really you're on not only a community mission here, or even a national mission here. I think you're on a global mission.
I
You're
think you're
trying
right.
to pull the world together. I think.
I
really.
think you're right. Thank you.
The
Yeah.
world is very small,
Yeah.
if I may speak for you in that regard. Now, having said that, you have people on your staff. How many people on your staff, and then do you have volunteers? Are they members?
Well, right now we have 9 full-time people. We have 3 part-time, and we probably have 300 active volunteers. We are fortunate to have lots of people who come to the office and help us out with everything from research to data input to, you know, folding papers. We have 50 people who help us on event nights, and we have a lot of people who help us with our youth forum. We have 2 very significant events, all-day events that require, you know, 75 to 100 volunteers, and we're very fortunate. People are very well. We're fun, you know. We're fun. It's, whether it's the theater or being involved in helping us decide panelists and forums and putting. We have something for everyone.
Well,
We could
Doris,
not
that
do
comes
this,
down from
yeah.
the top, though. That's trickle down, because if you two weren't fun and someone, you know, you provide the enthusiasm, and that trickles down to the rest of the group.
Some of the time, hopefully most of the time, we're fun.
Well,
but we could not do this without volunteers. I mean, again, we have a very talented, committed, we say small but mighty staff. We do. We could not do this without volunteers. And there are so many ways, as Dor said, for volunteers to be involved. I mean, so we have program selection task groups where we get people together and what's on your mind. And it's a room full of people, that they get to have that input. Sure. We have people the night of who are backstage helping us sort through the audience's questions to select the questions for the second half.
And you have to have some intuition to do that too. You have to use
and some nerve.
Really, yes. And I think the fact is you've got people that you can trust that will go out there and do the job that needs to get done without watching over their shoulder.
But we also give new people opportunities to do that. These are ways to bring people into this experience, and we want to do that. So it's not all people who have done it before and let's keep doing it the same way. It's let's keep bringing in new people and see how they would come at it and how they would do it. And we're very open to that. I mean, that's sort of central to the organization.
Well, we've talked about your objectives and we've talked about the things that you're trying to do here, but another thing that I noticed in reading the material in the background on the Connecticut Forum is that in the dialogue about your group, you use the word civil several times. And it strikes me that that's at the heart of what you're doing. The civil has a lot of meanings and nuances to it, but what would you say? How are you using that word to describe?
Oh, absolutely. I would say at the very outset, that was a large part of not only don't we talk about enough issues, but we don't talk about them in an open, respectful, way with one another. And even though that was the case 20 years ago, and it was part of what motivated us, it feels that unfortunately that has become more the case today. That not only don't we talk to each other openly and respectfully about areas where we might have serious disagreement, now we've decided not to talk to each other at all.
That's true.
Not to engage at all, whether it's online or in person. We've sort of separated from people we disagree with. So I think our feeling is, and at the heart of the forum's mission is, that this is about our community. We use the term our community in a sense that it's something that we all share, that we all need to be part of. And any community needs a lot of difference and diversity and disagreement in order to be a vibrant, real community. And part of that is if we have that and we can create an environment with our moderators and with our mission that says, and we can disagree mightily, respectfully, and that there's real value for all of us in that, both in terms of what we hear that we might not have heard otherwise and might change our thinking, and or just the modeling of it. That's the model that we all need in order to have safe, respectful community. So we see it on all those levels, that being able to have civil, real,
discourse.
Honest discourse. That doesn't mean that we're only talking with people that we agree with. That means that we're really talking with people that we don't agree and or, in many cases, don't know. And that's a part of it also, is that reaching out and talking to people that we would not otherwise experience, that we would be awkward and uncomfortable in this sort of different place and different world, that we can also cross that barrier. We can also be engaged in that kind of conversation. And that's also a part of civility, is in terms of reaching out into places beyond our comfort zone, beyond our norm.
Well, people do not like people or things they don't understand. The immediate reaction is to, I don't like that.
Right.
Because they don't know anything about it, so they don't like it.
And our belief is you don't get the understanding unless you have at least some firsthand experience, some real experience of that person, what they think, who they are, where they're from. So we're trying to provide that opportunity for
that
real
bridge.
Firsthand experience. And given that, now you have some understanding to work with. Now you have some information to work with. So it's just at the heart of what we do. And I would also just say that, Susan, that this is not only the way we present, this is the way we behave as an organization in every interaction, every person that we deal with, everything that we do, every transaction or negotiation. We try to operate this way. I mean, you have to do that. When we say it's 100% pure, to its mission. It's not just a mission that we
Well,
created.
you're setting a tone.
It totally
and-
guides
and people
everything
need to
that we do.
work within that tone and that framework.
In every
and I
way.
think that's very important.
Yeah.
Well, talking about framework, and which I think is very important to youth.
Can I just
Sure,
add? I just wanted to add something. This idea of civil does not necessarily mean that things can't be lively and highly charged. Things at forums, throughout the organization, certainly at our theater events, are very lively and frequently very highly charged. But they can still be civil. It's not like it's one or the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just
Well, as I
wanted
said, you set that tone. I mean, it's kind of like a football game. It's going to be what it is, but it does have rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and talking about framework, and I think what's important to young people, and I'm going to address this with you because you brought it up, Doris. You have the Connecticut Forum. That happens twice a year, you said? Twice a year, two panel? Four times a year. Oh, it's
we
four
have four
times a year,
forums,
too?
yeah, a season.
Okay. And who are you reaching out to? Are you reaching out to schools? How do you invite the young people in? Who's invited? How does that work?
Well, I misunderstood you that we have four forums a
Right, four
season,
forums, yes.
and the youth forum meets monthly.
Oh, monthly, okay.
Monthly at one another's schools. So one month you may have a meeting at Hartford Public. The next month you may have a meeting at Avon High School. And that's part of what what the whole mission of the
So
forum is.
you go out to the community rather than bringing people in?
Well, the schools come.
schools,
So there's
yeah.
probably 30 participating schools, monthly meetings where anywhere from 2 to 20 kids from schools meet at one school for a meeting. There might be 200 plus students who meet at a school and talk about, there's a predetermined topic. And so you have, in a very civil, comfortable environment, people, the students, high school students, expressing their views on a particular topic. It's moderated, and again, it's both suburban and urban, private and public schools who get together. Kids who wouldn't normally get together, talking about important things. That's monthly, and then we have an all-day student exchange event. We just recently had one at the Science Center from 7 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night that involved 300 plus high school kids. It was fantastic. We do an annual holiday party for all of the Hartford Elementary School. We asked the principals, which is very difficult to do, to pick 10 kids who otherwise wouldn't
I'm
have
sure it is,
a
yes.
holiday, and
Yeah.
it's the best party in town. But lots of, probably 600 to 700 high school kids go through the youth forum every season, and it's getting ready to celebrate its 20th.
It's also 19.
So you started that at the same time?
19 years. So it's important to know, we've always, from the very first forum, we've allocated about 250 of the tickets that we call ticket outreach that would go to schools and organizations, disabled vets, people that otherwise might not be able to come or might not think that this is for them, because we wanted this to be about everyone in the community. So we've always made those tickets available with the idea that we're not just giving you tickets, we want to start a relationship. We want you to be part of the forum family. We want you to be connected
It's
with
all
us.
encompassing.
Us to be connected with you. So high school students were always a large part of that 250. And at the end of the first season, where we did a forum called Focus on Race Relations, about a half dozen students said, we never get to talk about race. We never get to talk with kids of other races. We never get a chance to talk with kids from other schools. Could you make that happen? And we basically said, well, we'll work with you to make that happen, but together we'll see what that looks like. So that was the start of the Youth Forum. That was in 1993, and the Youth
Virtually
Forum has
right
gone
now,
on from
yeah.
there, what Doris described. So.
How are you funded? I mean, you have members, and I'd like to know what the cost of that membership is. You have membership dues, whatever, joining fees, but do you get state grants? Are you federally funded, state funded?
Well, we are, 60% of our funding comes from corporate and foundation support.
Because you mentioned sponsors. How many
Yeah.
sponsors do you have?
We have over 60 sponsors
Oh,
who
my.
are very loyal. Many have been with us since day one, who took that leap of faith before we had 80 forums as a track record. Very loyal, over 90% renew every year. So that's the
You're
majority.
very fortunate to have that track record.
Oh,
with
very,
sponsors.
very.
You've been delivering then what they thought was needed.
Exactly. It's been wonderful. And we do. Subscriptions and tickets cover about 20% of our budget. And then we do have special events and
Fundraising
individual giving. That's really the rest of the
Sure.
budget. And we've priced our subscriptions. We've always want the forum to be available to everyone. So you can become a member and for as little as $25 a ticket, attend all the forums. That's our $100 subscription, gives you 4 seats, up to 230, where you have a front orchestra, orchestra seat. And subscribers, if you subscribe, you come to all 4 forums. You're guaranteed the best reserved seats. It's the best pricing. You get special invitations. We have a lot of our subscribers come backstage and help us. Special invitations to events. We have many of our restaurants in Hartford participate and give all of our subscribers a discount.
Sure, that helps to invigorate Hartford too, bringing people down.
And the subscribers, some of our subscribers know they're only going to go to 2 forums because we don't have a run. We have one night. But they subscribe because they want to belong to the forum. And they use their tickets as gifts for teachers, for graduations.
Excellent idea.
It just works out.
Excellent
perfectly.
idea. Now, when is your next event? Because you have 4 years. So when is the next
So the season
one?
starts in October, on October 12th.
Can you share the topic?
Oh, absolutely. We can share. We're happy to.
Okay.
So October 12th forum is called The State of Women 2012. Because again, our audience in many ways told us that was an issue that they were more and more concerned about and wanted to hear people talk about.
Right.
So the State of Women 2012 on October 12th. Then on December 1st, I'm doing this from memory, on December 1st is a forum called Vision and Brilliance. Now again, one of the recurring themes for us throughout the years has been help us understand what the future looks like and help us, sort of see people that are incredible people and innovative and imaginative people.
Right.
So we're doing a forum called Vision and Brilliance. And then in March 7th, 2013, we're doing a forum called A Meaningful Life. And this was also an issue that bubbled up in many different ways in terms of people saying, of all generations, what's next for me? How is what I'm doing important and matter and so on? So this is going to be about a meaningful life. What is success? What is happiness?
What contributes to the quality of life?
Yeah. And then in May 4th, we're going to end the season with a forum called Funny, Smart People. And so that'll be an evening of entertainment and laughter with funny, smart people. And we actually know some of the panelists, by the way.
These are very exciting. You're really touching on a lot of things that I think you've been accomplishing what you need to do, where you're on topic and you're ahead of the curve.
Thanks.
And we'd like, obviously, to invite viewers to certainly think about membership.
Absolutely. We'd like everybody to be a member.
Right, exactly. And we'd like to give the website in order for you to find out more information. It is www.ctforum.org. So I hope we have covered everything that people need for today. They can certainly go further and look on your website to get the rest of the information or be in touch with you directly. And I do want to thank you, Doris, very much for having Connecticut Valley Views here. Thank you,
Thank
Richard.
you, Susan. It was a pleasure. It was fun.
We appreciate it. And for our viewers, you can see all of our programs on our website at www.ctvalleyviews.com. This is Susan Regan, thanking you for joining me in bringing proof to the people.
Our thanks to Windsor Federal Savings for making this program possible. Neighbors helping neighbors since 1936.